Hello, so as we move now more deeply into February, let's just feel that sense of deeply moving through, deeply analyzing, deeply feeling, deeply sensing, taking in the February energy, and feel now what's been happening up until this point, the first half of Feb. And now sinking into the feeling of current at the midpoint. And then sensing what we're leading into now for the second half of Feb. So at the moment we are about to, on the 18th of Feb, we just changed signs from the influence of the sun being in Aquarius, so all those Aquarian birthdays, such as my son's, which we celebrated recently. And then we're moving into the sun in Pisces, and that's when we have the Pisces birthdays coming up. And it's by no accident that these signs are those particular dates, because astrology moves through cycles, and the energy of those signs affects us as a kind of backdrop energy. And backdrop energy is something that I do talk about a lot, maybe haven't quite termed it that way, but usually when I'm giving these energy updates, that is what I'm talking about. It's background energy. It doesn't matter how that information is received, whether it's through astrology or just intuitive feeling, insight, just an empathic connecting to an energy that is undercurrent in the background of our lives, in the backdrop. I'll be talking about that more as we go along, but particularly for this point of this month, we're moving from that Aquarian energy of where we felt like we were receiving these new ideas and visions and really coming out of a sense of constriction and restriction and all those things that were quite just pissing us off before, especially around the December-January energy as well, which was extra intense, and finding our way, finding our personal way, what it is, where are we going now, like what the hell am I doing now, where am I going, what's meaningful to me, what is the direction I now want to take. You would have felt some pulls towards being quite active or motivated or inspired at the very least to, or have the will on some level to really know what it is you're doing and where you're going, and to redefine not just what you're doing, but who you are on a deeper level. So that was the surrounding energies, not just that sun in Aquarius in the background, but just a bunch of energies, what was happening to stimulate us in the area of pointing us to a new direction of growth. However, for some of us that still felt like we were being propelled a little bit backwards or a little bit overwhelmed by things, then there's a feeling of sort of ups and downs with that. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'll talk a bit about that down the track in this video, but for now I just want to point out that so early this week we are now changing frequencies, changing tunes as we now enter that dreamy Pisces energy. Funnily enough, we've been feeling that energy in the last couple of weeks already, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But for now, I just want to say that background energy can be a bit wishy-washy. It can be emotionally sensitive, dreamy. It's also very, very much heightened intuition, imagination, the dreams. Like so many vivid dreams in the last couple of 2-3 weeks and coming up. Vivid dreams with intuitive messaging, but also just intuition in general. There's an increased interest in the spiritual, the mystical, but also a sense of So coming up, if you haven't already felt this, then it's coming up for the next month. It's a sense of compassion, empathy, love giving, unconditional love, but also forgiveness underpinning that as well. Noticing things and dropping and changing who you are. And as I say that, again, I'm not just talking about that influence of the sun and Pisces. It's just what comes through intuitively with all the other backdrop energies. And from a soul level, what our soul, what God, the universe, is wanting us to learn and to go the next level is to understand who we are, so that we can pave the way for where we're going. And that's on a much more deeper level. So notice the deepening. There's also the sense now, so in this next month, absolutely release every last morsel of not just the weird energies that started this year, but go deeply before that into December and the whole of 2019 and that whole decade, because now we're sort of changing energies. So for example, the astrology signs actually start their cycle not in January, but in with the Aries energy. We're not up to Aries yet. So we're finishing off with Pisces. So there's that closing of that cosmic cycle. And that really does, so knowing that really does help understand things, because often we feel, or at least what I've experienced for sure in the last more than several years, is that when we hit that New Year period, January 1st and into January, every year, I never quite feel that New Year energy kicking in yet properly, right? So yes, we might get this burst of wonderful feelings on January the 1st, or at some point in January or even February. Yes, that does happen. However, that real sense of that we're really getting in touch with and really tuning into and really activating what we need to understand, learn and do for the entire New Year cycle, I find happens more in February or March, even in some case leading into April, where you're starting to make sense of things more and get it together on some level. So you could say that one explanation for that I've discovered through intuition and really thinking and reflecting on this is that change of the astrology cycles. But as I said, it's just one aspect, because I really feel that there are many. It's interesting to note that the Chinese New Year also is not January 1st. It changes, but it can be later in January or February. And that's where that sort of cyclical cycle begins and ends again. So there's always the changing of the seasons. And as I say that brings up that 2020, this February, the very last day, we have the leap year. So we have an extra date, February 29th. And so please watch out for my other video I'm about to make on the energy of leap year in general, providing a kind of spiritual energy. And the angels just showed me like a propelling movement forward. Literally, they showed me, you know, those mini trampolines, what do we call them? Rebounders, where you jump on it and then it's like a portal and up you go, like, and you spring up, right? And actually they're also pinpointing that rebounders are quite tight, as in when you jump on them, it's only a limited jump, as opposed to a massive trampoline that is well used and it's very boingy. They're showing me it's more of a boingy, small leap forward, like a propelling movement, like a rocket launch. They're also showing me now like those that idea of an injectable seat, okay, where you just pop up and shoot up all of a sudden. So an evolutionary leap forward. This is really vital information. So I feel that this will be very significant and that this will propel you forward for the next level and the next stage. So it's almost like, so if you've been evolving rapidly, or you are more highly attuned, or you are a bit more ahead of the game in your own personal development, you will most likely feel that more. And it's like being in a new plane of existence. It's like an upgrade. But everyone, each to their own, everyone's on a different point of their own cycle, affected by energies in their own personal way. And of course, I'm always talking generally collectively, but from an intuitive standpoint, where it's amazing how the angels will always bring about messages that do not just connect to one person. Sometimes, yes, it's for one person that's listening, or sometimes several, or as a group. So there's always hidden meanings in everything. You sort of take what resonates with you and see how that fits into your body, your life, your spectrum. So underpinning all of that, further adding to the backdrop of our lives, we are now fully in the Mercury retrograde cycle. And yes, there was that couple of weeks leading up to it where we were definitely indeed feeling the onset of Mercury retrograde. Now, if you're new to that or need a bit of a reminder of what that means, I do have a video and an article on the topic. I'll try to add it to my description below this video. Otherwise, you'll find it on my channel or on my website. But the interesting thing about this is just before I was talking about the Pisces energy, and what I wanted to add to that, because it really does connect, is that this Mercury retrograde is mostly in the sign of Pisces, and it will move into Aquarius. So we see this continual play between Pisces and Aquarius. That Pisces influence has already been affecting us. I've been feeling it very strongly. Energetically, it feels like this fluid, sort of thick, watery energy of dreamy illusion, confusion. Now, that confusion which Pisces can get into is conglomerated and merged with that retrograde, Mercury retrograde, which has that backwards feeling of, it can lead to that chaos and confusion and miscommunication and things like that. Not to mention the tech glitches. So you might have noticed it feels like your laptop is drowning in water or other tech issues. Outside of that, in the communication sphere, it's like being ungrounded. So I've really been feeling for that those of us who really need that grounding, which is most of us, and on some level each of us, this is the time that we need it especially, and there'll be a lot of moments like that cosmically throughout the year and in our lives. However, applying it to this Pisces energy, which can be very elusive, confusing, mixed up, confused expression, like needing clarification. It's like, an example is you make a phone call and then as soon as you've hung up, you've forgotten whether you mentioned one thing, so you call back 2 or 3 times and you think, oh my God, they're going to think I'm a lunatic. It's like dementia city. So it's also deep level personal issues, everything that's sort of been piling up and conglomerating since the December, January energies and the eclipse energy percolating and moving within and around you, now coming to the surface. Allow this next month to be, and this Mercury retrograde and Pisces cycle, to help you process, reflect upon, review, analyze. And I really want to keep saying process, release, so that you can maximize this energy in a way that makes sense, because everything is for a reason. You might have felt that I mentioned that feeling of like a drowning laptop, or like when you put your phone in a cup of water, which I have actually done once. I dropped our house phone in my cup of tea and it never worked the same since. And it always, after that, it was like being underwater and just terrible muted sort of sound, right? So this is that sort of feeling in the backdrop of our atmosphere. And let's just remember that we not only have that sense of atmosphere, let me just loosely use that word to describe the universe and our outer surrounds, the multiverse, our world and the energy that is everywhere and that is in everything, but also our own little mini atmospheres, our microcosm within the macrocosm, and our mini atmospheres are, you guessed it, our energy system. And as empaths, as many of us are, or highly sensitive people, we are picking up, transmitting, and all this energy is moving within and around us. So we are feeling like a wishy-washy wash machine, right? If we're really sort of tapped into that mixed up Pisces energy with the retrograde and the background Pisces energy of the Sun in Pisces, which is closing up now. But there have been challenges and opportunities within that as well, like anything. So it's important for you to understand where you have come from, what you need to do, looking at the fine details, closing off projects, and really looking at the microscopic detail, the angels say. So finishing up, signing off things, unfinished business. So deeply look into it. Otherwise, you can apply it to apply it to your own lives, your own self, deeply looking within yourself. And also your true goals, your true life purpose, because one of the big, grandest themes that has been happening this year so far is a rewiring, a re-networking, a rerouting, so to speak, of our divine higher selves, pulling us out of the lowest depths of quagmire in order for us to, it's like a hand being pulling us. It's like the image they're showing me is of such as a near-death experience, or for example, someone drowning and a hand comes in the water, pulls the person out, right, and saves them. It's a spiritual hand, and you do actually hear these stories, but otherwise it's an etheric symbol for being pulled out of the murky waters that we've been in, and we've been suffocating in, not just in recent times, but over the last decade or more, and if you really look at it deeply, our entire lives in this lifetime, and even more deeply in all lifetimes across all directions of time and space. That is a bloody hell of a lot, right? So think of it that way. And so now we are being saved, we're purged, so that we can reunite with a higher self on a higher level and form that deep sense of okayness. That's a funny word, but the angels just said it. A deep sense of clarity, and clarity is something we're so craving and needing, and some of us have already received insight and clarity, and we want to go to the next level with this, okay? Because there has been that sense of being trapped in fear, and at the same time, insight, light coming, knowledge, downloads. But it's important for us to have our solitude, to go within ourselves, to reflect on a deeper level, as that watery, sensitive, emotional energy really stirs within us, so that our debris floats upwards. So they show me now, for example, a little mini tsunami coming, and then that debris washes up on the shoreline, okay? And then there's a rebuilding, the restarting. And 2020 is all about building. And we want to start on a solid foundation from a point of clarity, from a clear perspective and platform with which to grow. These are all highly intuitive, deep messages. So I really hope that you are receiving them on a deep, intuitive level. And from there, you soak that up, you absorb it, and you reflect on your own and see what further insight comes for you personally. But also on that note, I have been planning and working on bringing to you information about 2020, and I would love to hear some feedback on anyone who feels like they would really like to understand the backdrop energy of this year more, and would be happy to purchase a sort of lecture recording or sort of mini course type setup explaining the energies of this year with some more in-depth knowledge for you to understand it and to allow yourself to sink in and harmonize with the energy, understand why the challenges are coming up, what the opportunities are, and how this will affect you on a human and soul deep level. If you feel like that's something you might be interested in, please let me know, pop me a note, because I'd really like to know who would be interested in that and whether there is indeed interest, because it does take me time. I've already written a lot and received a lot of intuitive information, so I'd really like to know at this point, is it worth my while to go ahead with this? Because I do have a lot of projects. As you know, I am launching my online school for courses this year, and I'm really busy doing that. And I will be providing a free course for everybody who is interested on a 5-minute routine of how to get clear, how to what's the next word? It's another C word. So first is get clear. The other word is centered, I think, and then connected. And I think I might have botched that up, but doesn't matter. Anyway, the idea is a 5-minute routine for getting centered and getting in tune with yourself and feeling calm. That was the other word, calm, clear, connected. And it is really important that we be able to do this, which is why I show how to do so in 5 minutes. And I also explain the steps and explain further information. And it's all happening on an energy level. So that will be coming to you soon. That's something I'm working on now as an offering for everybody. But if regard to cosmic energy information, please let me know that that's a possible interest for you. And of course, I don't hold anyone to that. It's just a general idea for me, so that I know that it's sort of worth my while, because I have spent a lot of time and energy on a lot of things in the last decade with my business, and it's sort of time for me now to move into an area where I'm not being bogged down by that and sort of setting myself back. So that would be more balanced of giving and receiving, which is wonderful for everybody moving forward, because one of the lessons that I've found for myself personally, but I feel also as a collective message, is boundaries, and boundaries being like you're now solidifying a lot of that. So those are the kind of things I will be talking about in that Cosmic Energy recording series that I would like to make available for purchase, but a whole host of other things too. Okay, so I can discuss that further with you down the track, not too far away. But for now, let's have a feel of what else is coming up for us thematically this week. There's a feeling of moving into action, to that drive for wanting to get things done, finish a project, to really work on a dream or a goal. And so we can also feel like, for some of us, you might be a little bit frustrated by any setbacks that Mercury retrograde brings, which include delays, feeling halted or set back in some way, or any kind of confusing energy or unfinished business. But it's important to address these things in order to move forward in a fresh way. We are moving from about Thursday the 20th onwards into a series of, in astrology, what is called sextiles, which is a very harmonious energy. I quite literally think of a sextile as in the word sex, which is a joining together. So the joining of two planets together in a harmonizing way. So with that comes this sense of imagination, spirituality, values, optimism, intuition, dream life, creative inspiration being amplified, and a sense of dreams, expectations, faith, and growth. You might have a conflict between feeling boundaries and feeling limitations, and then a greater sense of this expansion and which is actually a bit of a theme for 2020, which I plan to be talking about in my 2020 information. However, there's such an opportunity for growth and for taking things to not only a deeper but a further level, so to the farthest extremes or expanses for those who can sort of relate to that energy. And we're talking about higher path, soul purpose, divine wisdom, long-term goals and potentials, moving from potentials to actualization, but needing that in-between stage of dreams, intuition, and allowing the energies sort of to work together to bring things about in a more harmonious and higher vibrational way. So it can be really exciting and just feel nice, and you might be feeling creative and curious and stimulated. And at the same time, you might feel a little bit under the weight, or it's like the angels just said, it's kind of like being under the flu in a way of the Mercury retrograde in Pisces or any other energies around that might feel sort of disruptive, or that you're wanting to find ways to be more efficient and move forward, but then you might be sort of stuck in that kind of illusory, wishy-washy Pisces energy, or any other sort of energy that is blocking or just sort of setting back in some way that natural flow forward that you're wanting to enter, but you will be receiving flashes of insight and intuition to get you through. And you should be having a stronger desire to be happy, or naturally moving into an accidental default of contentment. And that is hard to come by in this day and age. And it might surprise you where that takes you and how that suddenly appears. However, having said that, let's remember there are other energies at play. So some of you might feel more downtrodden and others more in the light, or a odd conglomeration of both, which would be the most realistic prediction of both sort of moving simultaneously together. And they're saying like two fishies swimming in a river. Now, at the end of the week on Sunday, we have a new moon, and guess what it's in? Yes, Pisces again. So it's that watery, sensitive time, but also to really move these dreams, these physical and spiritual, mental and emotional dreams to the next level, to open up that clear slate for new growth ahead, so that you can begin to work hard on what it truly is that, first of all, that you know you want to do and who you want to be, and then to actually step into that higher energy and reality which is there for you. The angels are saying now and coming up in the next while, or at a certain point when you are ready, or when the sort of cosmic energy just sort of aligns for you personally, and then you are there. And they're saying on some level you're already there, and to see it that way, there's a sense of upliftment and truth in that message. So hopefully you will have tuned right in, and please, if you need to, listen to this recording again to really step into the energy and make more sense of it as you go along, because that will change. And I feel that this message today applies not just for this week, but in the next upcoming period of later February and into March. So thank you for listening. Thank you deeply. And don't be afraid to leave a message, say hello, let me know what resonates, and talk with you again soon.